em mới cam.
Testing 1, 2. Testing.
I got it.
Oops. Guess something that says start video.
Yeah, at the bottom. I didn't see that.
Well, it's not that, but it's only showing me. I just checking. Hello. I'll ask Kim.
Douglas, I'm not muted, but I can't hear you.
You can hear me now? I had
Yes,
myself
sir.
muted.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Douglas, can you hear the hearing? Are you seeing what's going on in the room?
I'm not seeing anything or hearing anything. I can hear you, Rocky.
Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to be, if a hearing started, we're supposed to be able to watch it too.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Can you send it in the chat that you can't hear or see either? Let me go back. There's a technical.
Started here. We have a quorum in place.
Yeah.
And welcome to Government Oversight. I'm going to ask Senator Alberts to number 6. Is that correct? To open us in a word of prayer. And if you will, thank you.
All right, if you give me attention and bow your heads, please. Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for the sunshine, this beautiful weather. We thank you for the opportunity to serve you in the great state of Georgia. And we ask you to give us a witness in the sermon as we debate and enact these very important pieces of legislation. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. We've got a lot of things we're going to be doing as far as we're going to hear first SB 346, then SB 379, SB 501, SB 498, and then SB 390. We will start there. We've got a lot of signups, so we may have to do this is ask you to pick the best one on your team or two, because we're going to have so many, or either we're going to have to leave you to a minute or two from that standpoint. Pros and cons from that standpoint. Senator Ababatardi, would you like to lead us off, sir, with SB 346, if you will? Would you like? You're number 2. There you go, sir. You are on.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 346. Basically, this legislation prohibits companies that are owned or operated by Iran from bidding on or submitting proposals for state contracts. If you remember, a couple of years ago, we passed very similar legislation, same language related to contracts with China. Basically, prohibits companies are owned and operated by the government of Iran from bidding or submitting proposals, creates related procedural requirements for state agencies regarding contracts or goods and services, and provides for civil liability and penalties for companies which the Department of Administrative Services determines violated the bill's requirement. And that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Mac Parnell. And we'll give you a few minutes. Let me get you number. There we go on the witness. You should be live, sir.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Senator Anna Vitarte, for bringing this important piece of legislation. This is absolutely critical. The Georgia Faith and Freedom wholeheartedly supports this legislation. One of our main issues that we advocate for is the state of Israel and maintaining robust relations with the state of Israel. I had the opportunity to visit Israel in the aftermath of October 7th, and we have seen firsthand what Iran left unchecked in their terrorist proxies can do. And we just want to support this piece of legislation. It's common sense, almost more important to our national security than what you've already wisely done with the language dealing with China. So thank you so much. We're very
Thank you
in
very
support.
much. Thank you. Any questions for the author of the bill? 10. Senator.
I appreciate the bringing up the bill. I'm just wondering, do we do currently any business with Iran at all? I'm just wondering.
Number 2.
I believe if we do, it's probably honestly very little, but I think from our perspective, or at least my own perspective, I guess I should say, I think this is a measure just to ensure that, as it relates to the state, we're not supporting what's going on currently in Iran.
We appreciate that. I'm just wondering because, we can put individual country, why not Soviet Russia either? I'm just saying, can you put it in? We don't want any business with the Russian government either. So I'm just saying, maybe we need something to put certain more, a few more countries in there or.
I mean, we could,
do
I mean,
that
I'm okay
being
if we put the entire adversarial list, whether
Yeah,
it
yeah,
includes
yeah, I'm just
Venezuela or
saying.
whatever.
That's the only question I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. So my question is, I support the intent of the bill. Is there anything in here about, so would a future General Assembly need to come back and repeal that were geopolitical circumstances change, which obviously I wouldn't expect near term, but just looking, down the line, maybe 60 years or so. The current realities, of course, can shift. That was my question.
Yeah, that's a fair question. Thank you, Senator Parent. I think, because I think right now we basically are following the adversarial list that I know Homeland Security, we've established that list. I know with Homeland Security with TikTok legislation last year and as it relates to the Department of Commerce and other federal agencies. So, I think we could do it in a couple ways. We can either refer back to that list that currently exists with the adversarials, or we can just name the adversarials in the legislation as the senator from Gwinnett County mentioned. So I'm good either way. And if somebody wants to propose an amendment, we can do that too. I think.
Mr. Chairman, I'd rather put an amendment, put Russia in there too. If you don't put in, there's so many countries that we fight with, So currently, I think what's going on in the world, we should put Russia in there too. Amendment, if the author willing to accept.
Mhm.
So I've added it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that time is going to be of essence today. My question for the author is, I do not know what that list is at this point in time. I don't know the official title of that list, but it sounds to me like you would be okay with a floor amendment
Mhm.
that would accept that.
Yep. We
Knowing
can draft
that, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to pass. And then if Senator Rahman wants to offer the floor amendment, I have no problem second signing on it.
You had a comment.
Yep, good. We've got, I'm gonna, Senator Moore, I'm gonna get you in there.
After a review of the list, I want to
Get the list, okay.
see what list,
Senator
make
Moore.
sure I understand. how
Yes,
that works.
Mr. Chairman, I've got the list. It's called Countries of a Particular Concern. It was last updated on the last day of this past year, and I believe there's 12 countries on that list currently. In our last committee, we did have a discussion about this and another bill. And there was, I guess, some concern with Legislative Council on how do you update this list?
Yeah.
Like, does each year, does the General Assembly have to update that list, or else it's just going to be on these 12 countries perpetually?
Mr. Chair, my comment there would be that we would name the 12 countries on the, if that's how we'd want to, I would feel more comfortable second signing an amendment on the floor that named the 12 countries.
Okay, good.
I second his motion to do pass, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a due pass. We have a second and by Senator Alberts.
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
And any other discussion?
Yes.
Whoops.
Number 3, thank you. Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand where we are. If we name the 12 countries, this refers back to countries that are in on federal regulation, right?
On the list that are already.
Yes. So wouldn't we need to refer to that list? Because if you put in the 12 just in a list, then you're still running into the problem of changing geopolitics down the line. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Let's do this in our last.
you don't have to be a lawyer to figure that one out.
Yeah, in our last committee, I think we had the same question come up. I think what we do is we pass this as is and then look at a floor amendment in order to be able to do that. Would seem to make sense.
Sounds good. Just wanted to throw in my little 2 cents. on
And I
it.
think
Thank
this
you.
will be a simple floor amendment time. This is just going to reference in the federal code, Title 15, subtitle A, paragraph 7, subparagraph A, which is where we have the determination of 4 adversaries and they're listed. We reference that, then that will solve, I think, what the senator's concerns are, and we can do that on the floor pretty easily.
I agree. Okay, very good. We have a motion to pass. We have a second, correct, if I'm correct. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, like sign. Passes. Senator Anna, you're done there. Very good. Thank you. All right. Our next bill will be SB 379 LC 471808S. This is a bill that is my bill, is dealing with school chaplains currently under the code. If you look at page 2, line 20, under child protection professionals, the class of person is not named as a school chaplain. So what this does, it names the school chaplain as an official position that's there. I would mention this. We have chaplains currently in the military, we have chaplains in our hospitals, we have chaplains in our prison and correctional institutes, we have chaplains in our universities and colleges, our sports teams have them. Fire and police all have chaplains, but a chaplain is missing in the sense of our schools today. One of the things I see is that currently 70% in our minority population has no father at home. 35% within the white community has no father at home. We have a void that's there, and a counselor has to put all that information when there's conversation between them on their record. The chaplain is a little bit different from that standpoint. He can kind of be a counsel, a friend, someone that can just talk to. And sometimes we just need people to talk things out rather than that. We call a lot of people in after there's a tragedy, but I wonder if we don't need to have someone in there before the tragedy occurs. I think it's emotional support. It's a spiritual guidance. It's a crisis intervention. It's places that they can do that. If you look on the 3rd page of the bill, and I know we've made an amendment on the substitute. Let's look at line 47 specifically. Notwithstanding any provisions of the paragraphs of this subsection or any other law to the contrary, a local school system or public school shall be authorized to employ or accept as a volunteer a school chaplain to provide auxiliary support, services, and programs for students as assigned by the local school superintendent or the local board of education or other public school governing bodies. I want you to just note that this is local control. This is your school board that has control of those people that can be there. I know I have one that I'm talking to. He had been 20 years a chaplain in the military, and he had retired, and he was looking for something. He said, man, I'd love to be in the schools to be able to do the same type of thing that I'd done in the military. And if you continue reading, it says a school chaplain employed or accepted as a volunteer under this subsection is not required to be a certified professional personnel or otherwise subject to any rule or regulation of the Professional Standards Commission. Now, he's still going to be under the guidelines of the school board or that authority that he's going to work under. So he's not just carte blanche, he just cannot come in. So it's a simple bill in that it's putting a person in that can help, that's not quite in the same position. And right now, we are facing crisis in so many places that we need just good, sound counsel sometimes, or just a friend to talk to. And isolation is a real problem today. Bear with me. With all of our connectivity, I believe we see more loneliness than we've ever seen before. And I believe that that's something that we need to address. And I believe this gives an opportunity for our schools to have another tool in the toolbox to help our children and help them in areas that, how do I say, we're not right now doing because of maybe they don't feel comfortable with talking to that person. Senator Albers, you have a question or comment? Please, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank you for bringing the bill forward and addressing the concerns that I and others had with the chaplain being in lieu of a school counselor. Usually our school counselors do play a very important role that I think we can all agree to. In fact, we've been working as a General Assembly to increase school counselors as they need that individual time in order to plot out with those students on how they're working their way through the system. I think you adding this in addition to, not in place of a school counselor, is the right change. So I want to thank you for bringing the substitute and making sure everybody who's here today understands the clarification that was made in order to appease both parties. But I want to commend you on us doing things to improve the climate of a school. And I was so glad you mentioned the military and public safety, where that has been a huge benefit as we've dealt with stress, post-traumatic stress, as well as just having a better cultural environment. So thank you.
Thank you. We're going to bring on right now Rocky Malloy. He is with the National, let's see if we get him, National School Chaplains Association. Let's see, can I get him in large print or do I have to have him in miniaturization? Can somebody help us there? I don't know whether back in the back they can do that. Can you hear us, Rocky?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm trying to get them to enlarge you, but we hear you, and thank you for being willing to spend your time and help us. And I know this is something you have, and I'm going to let you do this. Tell us a little bit about you and about your organization and what you're doing across the country, if you will. And if they can get you to a large screen, we'll take you. If not, we'll take you on a small screen. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Rocky Malloy. I'm the founder and CEO of the National School Chaplain Association. We have chaplains in 30,531 schools. Our data set is over 27 million people. And that data set was used by the state of Texas to pass the Texas School Chaplain Act because they were very impressed with, according to our data, up to 80% reduction in teenage pregnancies, a 37% increase in graduations, primarily the young ladies that stayed in school. And really the most astounding is 0 suicides in that database for the last 14 years. I know sometimes that's hard to imagine, but to the best of our ability to monitor this, not one young person has taken their life when there's a chaplain that's properly trained in their school, or any chaplain that we've come through our system. And the senator mentioned that there's federal employees, of which there's approximately 10,000 that serve different governments. And really, there's chaplains already employed in your state and every other state in the United States. And the single exception of public employees that regularly test with PTSD at the same level as first responders, who are your teachers, are not provided the same spiritual care. And so I'm glad you brought up the clarification about counselors. The U.S. military has every kind of mental health counselor you can imagine. And in the last 5 years, it's called the Strategic Readiness Initiative, have dramatically increased the role of the chaplain. They decided that a Marine or a soldier was not prepared for combat without being spiritually prepared. I think we might all agree on that. And research by Dr. Lisa Miller from the University of Columbus, she happens to be a Jewish lady, provided the empirical proof that people with a spiritual care is provided by a chaplain have dramatically less incidence of depression and other mental illnesses. As a matter of fact, according to the data produced by the U.S. Army, not providing spiritual care as delivered through chaplaincy actually creates mental illness. That means healthy teachers and students go to school and come home with issues. I think that's very important. Chaplains can serve as a safety officer. You see, I have a badge here. Our chaplains are issued a badge that qualifies them under the right authorities as first responders, especially if they're first on the scene, or to support police or firemen, of course, with their permission. It gives schools a badged officials at football games or other events, or if something would happen at school that's not supposed to happen. So chaplains can be hired as a safety officer or volunteer as a safety officer, whatever that school district would decide. They're resource officers. Chaplains are different than clergy like pastors and others because they're trained to operate in a secular environment. So when a professionally trained chaplain comes across a religious minority, let's say a Muslim child or teacher, part of their resources would be to get an imam in a position to help that person. So a chaplain is a secular environment specialist. That's why they're so successful, and that's why they're legal. The arguments of First Amendment don't come into play here because chaplains have been upheld consistently for 250 years. The one thing that has been almost shocking overseas is there's been a dramatic exposure of trafficking. Our current border situation in the United States, whichever place you fall on that, has brought in a great deal of trafficking to our schools. In the state of Texas, we have not found a single school that did not have an incident of trafficking, and the chaplains are trained to recognize that. Besides first aid training and threat assessment and first shooter, they're trained to recognize the telltale signs of children that are being forced to do things against their will. So with that, sir, I don't know how much time you've allotted me, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members of the committee, I'll ask if y'all have any questions from that standpoint you'd like to ask Senator Parrott. I'm going to let you go.
Oh, thank
first.
you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple nuts and bolts questions. What is the definition of school chaplain?
Definition of a school chaplain would be a clergy member trained to work in a secular environment.
All right, Mr. Chairman, do we need that definition in the
That's
legislation?
maybe a definition. I don't know. It's mentioned when Ledge Council did not specifically. I'll ask, can you respond to, do we need a definition of a school chaplain here? Your opinion. Okay. Okay. If you could get that put together for us, is that something we can do as an amendment committee sub, or do we want to do that on the floor even however you'd like to do that?
I'd prefer it if we
Okay.
could, if you could write it up now.
Okay.
I mean, the definition offered, I think
Rocky,
makes
can you
sense.
give us that you had just again? That was pretty good.
Yes, sir. A chaplain is a member of clergy that's trained to serve in a secular environment.
Can I ask, I've got two more
Go
quick
ahead. Go
nuts
ahead.
and bolts.
Two more questions.
If you're
Okay.
ready. Okay,
Yes,
thank
yes.
you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any, can a chaplain be any denomination?
Yes, it's under the local school board. The local school board would approve who they would allow to be a chaplain. So that's their call. And there's no limit. If it could be Muslim, it could be Christian, it could be Jewish.
All
There-
right,
there
thank
is-
you.
There is
Oh.
an exception. There's been some concern about satanic groups. Satanists do not qualify to have a chaplain, and the Satanists themselves have said, we have no chaplains. So that's one group that cannot serve as a chaplain because by the black letter laws of the U.S. Constitution, they're considered anti-religion.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for that clarification, and all the more important to have a definition
Right.
then in the, don't you think? And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, would the chaplains need to undergo background checks
Oh.
before coming into?
Yes, anyone who comes onto school campus in that respect would have to meet the same qualifications of an employee or a counselor or anybody else. They would need to have the background checks done, all of that.
I would imagine that would come into play, would be clear with employee. I wasn't as sure about volunteer.
Yeah.
Could we ask for clarification on that as
We
well,
could
Mr.
ask for
Chairman?
clarification. It's been my experience that when there are volunteers in the schools anyhow, and most of them have to do that. I know we ran into it even in a church, and the lady who's worked there 20 years says, how can you do a background check on me? I've been here 20 years. It says, we're doing it on everybody.
Yeah, I was
And
thinking that in terms of like a one-on-one counseling type environment, that would be critical
Critical.
to have a background check. So I did want to clarify that, make sure that is actually in the law, if like council could let us know.
Just simply require that any person that is either employed or volunteer as a chaplain would have to have a background check, just like any other employee.
Yeah, I can try to see.
Okay, you could work on that.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Okay, hold on just a second. I've got, that's number 9. Center Merit, I'm sorry.
Oh, number 9, yes.
Okay.
9 from the 9th district. How about that?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. These chaplains are going to take the place of a school counselor, correct?
No.
Okay, we
That was
strike that,
changed.
and they don't have to be licensed.
That's correct. That is up to the board that they work for, the school board, whoever's in charge there. They can bring them in. For instance, someone could be, have been a military chaplain or could have been a chaplain somewhere else. They could come in, but they are under the guidelines of the local school board. It's a local control issue.
Got it. But why wouldn't we want a licensed counselor there? And why wouldn't that be a parent's right to say that, hey, I want a licensed professional to see my child?
Well, they would have that ability to do a licensed counselor, but as a general rule, a chaplain is not someone who's necessarily dealing with a specific one-on-one. He might refer them, as I understand it, to a counsel. You need counsel from that standpoint.
And pardon me, the sub did drop just like minutes before, so I apologize if I didn't catch that part.
Right.
We didn't have a chance to look at it in all fairness for us to even be debating this or discussing it in time. But my other question is, what if a person or parent subscribes to atheism? Was they're atheists? So wouldn't that infringe on their parental rights if they're saying, hey, I don't want a chaplain to give counseling to my child because wouldn't that?
They would not have to. It's not being forced from that standpoint. Whether it's an atheist who does not want that, the chaplain is more of someone there to, how do I say, I'll call them like a coach, but not a coach for a sport, but kind of a coach for life is what I see, that where they need someone just to kind of talk to without. When the issue, as I understand it, when you are counseled by a counselor, that goes on your record, is how I understand that. And sometimes you just need to walk something through or talk something through. And what we're doing here is we're leaving that to the local school board. We're trying to give them another tool that they can use. I was talking to a church the other day, and this guy was a minister in a church. He was a youth minister, and the school brought him in, and he was basically their counselor, and he was there. So that's how that was used. You're not forcing anyone from a standpoint of their religious background or anything of that nature.
But Mr. Chairman, my concern is that we are infringing on a parental's right to raise their child as they choose. And
Not stopping them on that. They're not forced to talk to even a chaplain. Yes, hold on. Okay, let me go. 5. Hang on just a second. Okay.
Senator Merritt, I know you got here a little bit late, and I think the beginning part of the meeting, you may have heard that the bill addressed some of the concerns several of us had, that this is not in lieu of, but this is an additional position. So I think that will alleviate part of your concern. But chaplains are used today in all forms of the military. We use them in fire departments and police department and 911 departments. We use them throughout EMS. We use them throughout the business world. This is making that same availability to those who would want it. Just like today, a student does not need to go see a counselor in school but they can choose to go get that from a counselor or from a chaplain. So this would be very much permissive for them to do.
Not necessarily. I'll give you this. Tyson Chicken actually has chaplains in their corporates, and that you're seeing a lot of even corporations that have chaplains present from that standpoint. So it's there. But I think what it is, it's another tool that the schools have in their box, if you will, that a local school board can respond with and deal with issues that are there. And I think that's something else. Before Rocky, I know you are with us. We have one more question and and then we'll let Rocky go. Number 11 is Blake. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, my question is just what is the posture for today? Are we meeting again before Monday, or what's your posture? Because I've heard some of the discussions about definition, and I'm wondering if that's something we're gonna meet again about or not. Just trying to
have
get
a
clarity
definition.
for myself right now.
We had a definition that you were drawing up, and the one that was there is a chaplain is a clergyman that is trained to serve in, and that you would have an exception that it couldn't be a Satanist or anything of that nature that we were dealing with. Is that kind of what you're looking at putting together for us? I think an exception for Satanists, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And I don't know if anybody of the members would have a problem. I don't think as far as that. Okay. Can you do that as an amendment for us? So we would have an amendment there.
So you're thinking about doing an amendment to this committee sub here, not a new committee sub that would be Monday morning or anything?
Correct. I was going to try.
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
How are you? Would that be okay? You feel comfortable with that?
I just want to make sure I understood where.
Okay. Senator Ramon,
I had just on the line 55, it said 55 to 57, no letters, and December 31st, each local board of education, now the public school government was saying they shall vote in public or whether to adopt a policy authorizing the employment of school chaplain.
Yep.
So if they want to, because I know the school, we don't provide enough money that is needed, right now, So isn't the extra cost for the school? I'm just wondering,
not a cost,
Yeah.
but just saying this is that you would like to make a decision on this. And that's, and I think what it does, it opens public discussion up for each individual school board to be able to talk about the issue of whether they want it or not. Because they may have a community that says, we don't want it. That's fine. But what this is doing, it opens the door that if somebody would like to do that, they would be open to do that. And just asking them by the end of the year to bring that up in a business meeting that they have on a regular basis from that standpoint. Okay.
I'm just saying, looking like, when you're saying like employment of school chaplain, I'm saying this, when you talk about employment, that costs money.
Well, right. And again, this is their call is whether they want to employ, it could be a volunteer, either way from that standpoint. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to do two more. Number 3.
Oh, that's
Yes.
me again.
Back to you. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, another nuts and bolts, and this may be something that our witness can testify to, but in the definition, it caught my attention. A clergy person who is trained, what is the training? And is there any sort of certification or license?
Rocky, could I get you to respond?
Yes, sir. One point of clarification is that no chaplain in the United States is licensed or certified by the state or the government. That's exclusively by religious organizations. Training, I think, would be, as you noted, best to be determined by the school districts, what kind of training they would like. We provide training, and that's required for everyone, whether they're military or not, to learn how to operate inside a public school system underneath the guise of whatever the school district has established for that chaplain. And we consider training very important because the teachers are the primary responsibility of the chaplain. And once the teacher's needs are met, then their time can move to students. So the training aspect of this is very important.
Right. So I was hoping for a little clarification on what the training, what would be appropriate. We are talking about our schools and
And
children.
I think that really goes back to the local school board from that standpoint that we're.
You could handle it that way. I just
Yeah.
suggest to you that given the vastness of our schools, the weighty implications with kids, it might behoove the committee to put some minimum regulations around training. I think that might ease the comfort,
Could
I would
ask
say.
this of Senator Albers? I was just going to ask him a question because I know that in the fire department, you are at 5. You have chaplains, and I don't know what the training is, and Senator Roberts, you have that within military as well. I mean, law enforcement, from that standpoint. And might you comment on, I don't know what the training issues that's.
Certainly. So, very similar to what Rocky just said, chaplains are certified by whatever denomination, church, synagogue, whatever they happen to be ordained as. They are ordained in that. And then depending on the organization, sometimes they would ask for additional knowledge. As an example, a lot of the folks that do it for public safety, will put them through a citizens police or fire academy just for them to get some of the knowledge of the team members that are there. But it is not necessarily a requirement. However, it's something that I think is beneficial to everyone for them to be able to identify with the men and women who are serving.
Okay, I'm on Senator Roberts, I'm gonna let you one more. And then I'll go.
And in the law enforcement side, it's they don't necessarily have to be a law enforcement officer, but they are normally ordained or certified in a particular faith. And then they go through, I know the Sheriff's Association has a sheriff's chaplain training certification class. I know the Fraternal Police does, and basically it's crisis situations, because majority of the times the chaplains are called out after crisis deaths or other things within the agency. And then also for type of peer counseling type stuff, the more medical trained individuals are usually part of the EAP, employee assistance programs that come as part of the benefit. This is above and to the side of that, because the people in the providing outside of the medical realm than within.
Number 12, I'm going to come on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was, how are we going to verify that these chaplains have, they're prepared for secular spaces? How do we verify that they have secular training? So whether they're an imam, a rabbi, or a priest.
What we are doing is we're basically leaving that to local school boards or to the authorities that are over that, that's their responsibility. We're giving them another block that of someone they can place in that position to be able to help in the school system. And so it's really their responsibility there. They can take Rocky's organization if they wanted to, and they can be certified through his organization or some other organization if they want to, but it's a local control issue. We're simply opening another option from that standpoint.
One more question.
One more question, then we're gonna.
Are parents allowed to see records of meetings with their chaplain when their child meets with a chaplain?
I'll ask that of Rocky because I am not a chaplain. Rocky, could I ask how any conversations that go on with a chaplain, are they documented? Are they, how does that get handled within the schools? Because you're doing this in Texas, I know.
Yes, sir. A chaplain has a lot of responsibility to the family of the young person they're speaking with. So the idea that a chaplain would withhold pertinent information from the family would be really against everything that we train. The young people do have a tendency to open up, knowing their conversation will not be on their school transcript and is considered confidential. So there's things that happen. A young person could talk about hurting themselves or some kind of abuse or bullying or something like that, where the chaplain would get the right authorities involved, get the families involved. So parental rights are at the very top of the priorities of a chaplain.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Let's do this. Number 1's been up for just a minute.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. To my understanding, the amendment's ready. So at the appropriate time, I'd just like to make a motion to do pass.
Okay. Do you pass on the bill, and then we'll go to the amendment? Do we have a second? Second. Second, we've got a second. Okay, so now we've got an amendment and we're gonna we'll take the amendment which defines that. Can you read that for us, if you will, please?
So this would be on line 47. And a new paragraph.
Can you come up to one of the mics, if you don't mind, just read that for one of them, if you will, read that for us.
So this would be on line 47. We're going to add a new subparagraph A that'll read, as used in this paragraph, the term chaplain means a clergy member who is trained to serve in a secular environment, provided, however, such term shall not include any person who is a Satanist. And then we would redesignate the current subparagraphs A and B as B and C.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. We have a motion on the, hold on, we got.
Is this discussion? Are we on to
You can-
discussion?
Well, we can discuss the amendment. Yeah,
You made an amendment. We need a second person. Discussion.
right, discussion.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, second the amendment. Okay.
My discussion is not on the amendment. I never got called on to ask my original questions about the bill.
Okay,
We got a motion and a second.
we got a motion and a second. Discussion, let's.
Well, amendment first and go back to the bill.
Okay.
Discuss it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
need to ask my questions when we
Okay.
go back to the bill.
Okay. On the amendment, we have that, we have a second. Okay,
Who moved the amendment? I
Comment-
seconded it. You did move, no,
okay, okay.
you moved the bill. He moved the bill.
Which
We're
the
voting
amendment
without
comes after
public
the bill.
comment.
I know we've got public comment, but we've also got some information because of the substitute. We're working on time as well. How many, we've got people that are signed up for this. Let's get the bill in a position first, and then we can work from there. Is that fair right now? So we've got the bill, we've got an amendment, and can we get the amendment passed to define? We've got a motion and a second.
I don't think we have a motion on the amendment.
To move the conversation, I'll make the motion.
Okay, and I second.
Second, so that,
Thank you.
okay, and any more discussion on the amendment, which is where we are? Okay, all in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Okay, we're good there, okay. That puts us in the position of the substitute of the bill as amended. I think I got that right. Now, we had some public comment, and what I wanted to do is this, time-wise, I know we've got 11 people that are signed up. And I don't know if, can you, I'm trying to, can you draw straws? We need a few. We've tried to address a lot of the things I think that may have been there and maybe not. I'm trying to do this is leave this open. That's, who we got our first one? It's, Michaela. Yeah, fam, we'll let you
Yes.
go.
Yes, sir. Hi, my name is Michaela Arciaga. I'm a certified math teacher. I'm also here representing the Georgia Coalition for Education Justice. We have about 200 just over 200 members from across the state who work on issues around education at the state level. I'm here just to share some of our concerns around the bill, particularly around certification. I appreciate the amendment that was brought, that substitute that separates the role of our school counselors from these proposed chaplains. What we're concerned about is this proposal to allow the hiring of education professionals that could bypass the Professional Standards Commission process. I think this is also part of the conversation y'all are having around what a certified chaplain should look like. That commission is made up of, I believe it's 18 members who are appointed by the governor who have varying expertise and stakes held in the education landscape, including private education, public education, administration, special education. So there is a very diverse range of expertise that help define what is the professional standard for people who have access to our students. The groups that you've mentioned so far are all adult groups, the military, police, athletic teams. We have a really high standard for who we allow to have access to our students for this reason. The commission sets that standard for us, and it provides transparency. It also provides accountability for professionals who might violate the roles and of the responsibilities and duties of their roles.
Okay.
So the concern that we would allow someone to be hired work in our school, have prolonged access to a student without having the same level of vetting that we hold every other educational professional to, just raises concerns about the safety of our students. The last thing I would say is I know that there were some
1 minute,
changes
okay.
made. Yes.
1 minute, because we've got some others that we want to try to
Sure.
get to.
The last is just the concern around funding. I recognize that we removed the aspect of substituting school counselors for these proposed personnel. But just given the area of this code section, we just want to make sure that QBE funds that are specifically allotted for school counselors cannot be applied to the employment of non-certificated personnel that don't fill the same role.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Sarah, is it Blackwell?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Sarah. If you will, give us about a minute of where you are and what's going on real quick. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. I'm Sarah Hunt Blackwell, First Amendment policy advocate with the ACLU of Georgia. We oppose this bill because it jeopardizes the safety and well-being of non-Christian students and LGBTQ+ students in Georgia. There's no language accounting for the First Amendment right of religious expression for all religious beliefs. Most chaplains are Christian-based, readied with a biblical perspective. That's a direct quote from the National School Chaplain Association website, the world's largest provider of certified school chaplains and the organization that was represented earlier in this very meeting. A biblical perspective is not secular. Imagine the impact on students who would be directed to receive religion-based counseling that doesn't align with their practice religion, if they even have a religion at all. The same applies to LGBTQ+ students. Depending on the chaplain's biblical perspective, conversations with gay, trans, and queer students could actually be attempts at converting or proselytizing those students. In an environment where LGBTQ+ students already feel unsafe and struggle with their mental health, subjecting them to religion-based counseling places them at risk of even more danger.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One comment from
Ma'am, is it your understanding from the testimony that you heard here today that students will be mandated to go talk to this counselor, or this would be a request that would be made by the student?
I'm not sure. That's a question that I have myself. So would like some clarification on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are coming up on time, and we've got. I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna go ahead and call for the vote. We'll see what the committee desires to do, and then we will work from there. From that standpoint, we have one more, Senator Parrott.
Thank you. Just very quickly, I know we've gone over it. I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, that I really appreciate the intent of the bill and everything, the expertise that Rocky has shared with us, and I need to get his last name. I do have some unanswered questions about the children aspect of it and the training aspect of it, as well as around mandatory reporters. So I'm not prepared. I just wanted to explain that while I really appreciate the intent and think there's some really good conversation here, I'm not personally quite ready to move it forward myself. So I just wanted to explain that to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think this is the other part, is this bill is not for the intent of dealing with I'm gonna call it deep, is to open the door for those schools to be able to do that and have the right to do that and to help their students. And from that standpoint. All right, we had the bill, we're in a posture where we can vote. What's the will of the committee? We had a motion, a second. We have discussion. So now call for the question. Have a motion? Oh, no, you've already got it. Okay, so all we do, all in favor, raise your hand. I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all opposed. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Okay, 5, 6. Okay. With that, we will go to our next one. Let's do this. Senator, who's our next? Our last one. Senator Walker, has he come in yet? Senator.
So Walker had a bill at
Bill.
HHS.
Thank you, Rocky. I'm going to let you go. Thank you, sir, for your input, and thank you for what you do, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Senator Jackson. Come on down. We're gonna get you real quick. And Senator Jackson's there. Okay, okay. Senator Jackson, we're going to let you talk. This, as I understand, your bill came out of a study committee with Senator Robertson and some others as far as that portion. So if you will give us a quick run on this and tell us about your bill real quick.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. So I'm speaking on SB 498 from a sub. It's LC 560147S. And what this bill does is it creates a Georgia Interagency Council. So essentially it brings together all of the major kind of departments and agencies across the government to address and think about issues of homelessness. The reason why you have a substitute here is because the Department of Board of Pardons and Paroles reached out after the bill was dropped and asked to be added along with the Department of Community Supervision because they also deal with people who are experiencing homelessness. So those are new to the bill that you originally had. But again, this did come out of a study committee where we feel like if all of the agencies can get together along with people who have experienced homelessness, they would be a part of this committee, and people who provide care. So some of the organizations, nonprofits, they'll have 3 seats as well. But the hope is if they can all get together and get on the same page, then perhaps we can enact best practices across the state and begin to truly eliminate and alleviate our issues with homelessness across the state. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I am happy to entertain questions.
Okay, Senator Robinson. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Is there a cost to this?
No, sir, there's no cost to this. All of the folks who will be on this committee will not receive any compensation at all. Most of them already work as government employees in the first place.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank you. I think that was a very eye-opening experience we had on that study committee where we realized there was a whole lot of individuals wanting to help, but there was a lack of communication between the groups. And that was causing some adverse effect to those individuals that were either homeless or unsheltered. So thank you so much for bringing this legislation forward.
So thank you.
Okay. We have any other senators on this one? No. Okay, we have some public testimony. Is it Isabel Taroa? Okay, thank you. Have a seat there.
Yep. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'm Isabel Otero. I am the Georgia Policy Director for the SPLC Action Fund. So as you all heard, in 2022, the Senate had a study committee that recommended additional coordination. Just recently, the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts did the same thing. They asked for additional coordination amongst the different stakeholders that are dealing with this issue. Our own sister organization, the Southern Poverty Law Center, has done a similar report with similar recommendations. And I don't have to remind you all that we're not always aligned and agreeing with some of these recommendations. So for 3 very different places are asking for the same policy recommendation. We've tried this before in Georgia, but it was not a permanent council. This legislation would create that permanent council, and Georgia would then benefit from some of the federal infrastructure that exists around interagency councils for other states. And as some of the pandemic era benefits continue to lapse, we might see more and more Georgians experiencing homelessness, and we need to be able to address this crisis, right? And so we don't want to be here next year. We don't want you all to leave without creating some of these solutions. This is a tested model. It's something that your Senate Study Committee has already recommended, and we're very excited to see this bill and recommend that you vote yes on it. I'm happy to also answer any questions. We worked really closely with Senator Jackson on this bill.
Okay. Cindy Battles. Oh, we got Cindy Battles. Okay.
Committee, I would like to thank you for hearing this bill. I would love to thank Senator Jackson for working on it. We go way back, and I know that this is an issue that is near and dear to both our hearts. As a single mother who worked for nonprofit, and me and my children actually experienced homelessness 3 different times while they were growing up, watching my now adult amazing children still deal with some of those repercussions. Having followed the study committee and the recommendations really closely, heartily, I almost beg y'all to vote yes on this bill and to move it forward. I know that's gonna like shock Whip Robertson. We have agreed way too often this session. He's probably uncomfortable right now. But I do want to thank all of the sponsors. I do also want to make sure the bill includes recommendations for who is included on the council. And one of my favorite is making sure that people who have been impacted by homelessness are on the council. And I just want to make sure that that stays there because again, as someone who has gone through that, I know how important their input would be. And I'm open to questions or I will yield the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'm 30 seconds. Just on behalf of the Southern Center for Human Rights and James Woodall, our policy associate, and on behalf of our team, we just want to thank you all for this bill. We are grateful for the interagency collaboration as Whip Robertson has raised. We're excited about the potential for this legislation, but we also want to thank you specifically about including people who are impacted. That is the most important part of this legislation because they know best in terms of what they need and how we can help them. So again, we urge favorable consideration. And again, thank you, Senator Jackson.
Thank you, committee. I'm Rita Rocker. I'm the Deputy Executive Director with the State Board of Pardons and Paroles. And I'm the one who reached out to Senator Jackson to request that we be added to this bill. We have approximately 900 incarcerated individuals who are not able to be released to community supervision due to homelessness. So we felt that being included would greatly be of assistance to us in helping those people. Thank you.
All righty, I hate to make you stand. Brian Toots, Deputy Director of External Affairs for the Georgia Department of Community Supervision. As was just previously testified by our counterparts at Department and Paroles, we have a vested interest in interagency coordination that this legislation seeks to establish for homelessness. We were included in the DOA's audit. Homelessness spending. We jointly administer DCA's RPH program, which is intended to provide short-term housing assistance to individuals under DCS supervision. And this will help us move the stride a great deal with our problem residents community and address those under our supervision who are homeless and have problem finding resident stability. And with that, I just thank Senator Jackson for agreeing to include us on the council so that we're represented.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you to the author of the bill. My name is Elizabeth Apley, and I'm here on behalf of Presbyterians for a Better Georgia, Georgia Advancing Communities Together, Enterprise Community Partners, the Georgia Supportive Housing Association, and House ATL. I've testified many, many times in the last decade on housing and homelessness issues and appreciate the authors bringing this bill. We are offering some amendments that we hope you'll consider to perfect the bill. The bill refers throughout to the word services, and we would urge you to consider defining services to include housing. The second amendment we ask you to consider would be to add to the list of interagency participants, the Department of Family and Community Services. As you know, 20% of children removed from their homes and placed into foster care in Georgia every year is because of housing inadequacy, including homelessness. So they're an essential partner, as is the Department of Education that counts the 56,000 homeless school children who are need to be served. And third, the Department of Community Health that plays an essential part in paying for the services that are a part of addressing homelessness. So I would ask you to consider adding DFACS, DCH, and DOE.
Okay, time we're
May I offer one more amendment, Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence? we would ask you to consider adding as a function, as an item 10, researching, identifying best practices to prevent, reduce, and address homelessness, and formulate and offer recommendations on policy and the allocation of resources to achieve these ends.
Okay, thank you. Senator Robertson, I'm gonna recognize you.
Yes, sir. First of all, Mr. Chairman, I think with adding all of these other groups to it, we basically create the same burdensome bureaucracy that we've had to deal with, and that I think Senator Jackson's trying to bring us out of. When we sat down and talked to all the interested parties for over several months working on this bill. So at the proper time, I'd like to make a motion to pass.
This is second new class. I would say, and since this is coming out of the study committee, I think that we will take it as it is. It's had time to do that. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? None. Okay. What's the will of the committee? Do we vote? All in favor, say aye, or raise your hand. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Okay, that motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. We are going to take a 10-minute exact recess to that, and we will be back in 10 minutes real quickly. So everybody can take just a little bit of a break right quick. Thank you. Be back in 10 minutes. Walker. Is Senator Walker here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Here, he's here. That's good. That's Senator Walker. Senator Walker, you're here with SB 390, which we have already heard once, and you are coming back with that bill. Am I correct? Improved and
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I've worked closely with both Valdosta State University and the state librarian, Miss Julie Walker, to make some changes to the bill that made it a lot. I think they would even say they support the bill in its current form.
Mhm.
At least they're not opposing the bill in its current form. So I've got a committee sub LC 460828S. And the crux of the changes that I've made are to allow for privately donated funds to be provided to ALA for the sole purpose of supporting an application for accreditation or reaccreditation of a degree program. That's on line 53 through 57. So the first version prohibited any privately donated funds from going to ALA. Now it can be, there's a carve out for the sole purpose of supporting an application for accreditation or reaccreditation of a degree program. And the other substantive change that I made was I heard from a lot of librarians from all over the state, and they like being certified. They want to continue to be certified. So this bill they would continue to be certified to be a library director. They would still have to have a librarian's professional graduate certificate, but it's going to be moved under the, let's see here. So it won't be under the Secretary of State's office or the state board. It'll be under the Office of Public Libraries. No, I'm looking at the wrong LC, Mr. Chairman, I think. What LC do you have?
What else?
LT. Hang on just a second.
I need the one I sent you like late yesterday.
S.
Do you have a copy?
She's got a copy.
I'm sorry, so I really apologize.
Yes.
All right, LC 460835S, SB 390 is the bill. Again, 52 through 56 allows for privately donated funds to pay for the accreditation or reaccreditation of a degree program. And we will move the certification of librarians under, if you look on page 6, lines 37 is where it starts. We'll move the certification of librarians to the Georgia Council of Public Libraries. And one advantage of this is these are the state library directors make up the Council of Libraries. And they've agreed to do this without charging a fee to the librarians. And they're currently paying $75 for their license renewal. So other than that, the bill is as discussed at the last meeting.
Do you have a question or were you just moving from? Okay.
Senator, so just to clarify, the only changes that have been made is the one change that facilitates the degree program. And then the other changes that we're recognizing an agency for a certification, but everything else is the same, right?
Right, correct. And the certification can in no way be tied to membership or affiliation with ALA. I mean, if they come from ALA accredited institution, that's fine, but that's not going to be a requirement that they come from an ALA accredited institution.
Very good question. Very good. Thank you. That was what needed. So Robert.
Mr. Chair, I know that you said since we already got public testimony and the Chairman Walker was just here to make the corrections, I'll go ahead for matter of discussion or whatever, make a motion to pass.
Okay. Second, we have a second. Okay. Any further discussion? Number 3.
Thank you. Point of order, we have a lot of senators here who aren't on this committee. Can I see the ex officio appointment letters?
There's multiple same letters. I think those are the same.
Goodman, Anderson.
Oh, I see. It's 2 copies.
Yeah, there's 2 copies. Yeah.
Thank you.
What is exhibit A?
Yeah.
Not funny, Randy.
Let me, could we get our letter back? You can keep one.
Oh, yes. Happy to. Thank you.
Senator Merritt,
Point of order.
point of order.
Doesn't that have to be filed before we start? The ex officio?
We had them here before we started. They were sitting here. These came over. Yeah. Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 to 6. Okay, Senator Walker, you're done.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
Okay. If you will, this is a bill, which would be LC 491785. This will be, excuse me, this will be SB 501. 501. What? It's the 3rd bill in the folder. What this bill does, if you will look at page 2, we currently under 19, if you look at the current law, it says local boards of education and charter schools are strongly encouraged to allow and may encourage any public teacher or administration to read or to post in a public school building, classroom, or events, excerpts or portions of the writings, documents, records, or images that reflect the history of the United States, including but not limited to. In the list that is listed from the Bill of Rights to our Pledge of Allegiance, things that has been added, the 10 Commandments on that line 38, that the 10 Commandments have been added in. If you go to page 3, starting in line 46, each public elementary and secondary school in the state shall be authorized to display in conspicuous places each of the classrooms of the schools, a durable poster framed copy of the 10 Commandments that meet the requirements in paragraph C. And there is in lines 56 through 70, the recanting of the 10 Commandments themselves. In line 71, 72, 73, you find that a public elementary or secondary school in which each classroom does not include a framed poster, they may accept privately donated posters or money for the 10 Commandments, but they have to meet the displays that are there, that are present. What I would give you is that if you look at our foundation of our nation, and we've seen a lot of changes in our laws that have been rulings that have occurred, is that the changes we saw were in the Lemon Law and Coach Kennedy have opened up the door that the Ten Commandments specifically are a document that has been a part of our educational process for over 200 years and beyond. In fact, for over 200 years, it was standard documentation in our schools. I'd like to read you a couple of the things that presidents of the United States have said. John Adams, it says, the moment the idea is admitted into society that property is not as sacred as the laws of God, and that there is not a force of law or public justice to protect it, anarchy and tyranny commence. If thou shalt not covet and thou shalt not steal were not commands of heaven, they must be insoluble precepts of every society before it can be civilized or be made free. That was President John Adams. President Theodore Roosevelt, the Decalogue, Ten Commandments, and the Golden Rule must stand as the foundation of every successful effort to better our social and political life. Fear the Lord and walk in his ways, and love thy neighbor as thyself. When we practice these two precepts, the reign of social and civil righteousness will be close at hand. President Theodore Roosevelt. President Dwight Eisenhower, the blessings of life and the freedom of all of us enjoy in this land today are based in no small measure on the Ten Commandments, which have been handed down to us by the religious teachers of the Jewish faith. These commandments of God provide endless opportunities for fruitful service, and they are a stronghold of moral purpose for men everywhere. President Dwight Eisenhower. Lastly, President Ronald Reagan, we passed thousands and thousands of laws in our 2 centuries as a nation, millions maybe. And yet, if we simply adhered to the Ten Commandments that Moses brought down from the mountain, and he didn't bring down just 10 suggestions, then the admonition of the man from Galilee to do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and the Golden Rule, we could solve an awful lot of problems with a lot less government. Ronald Reagan. I think that to realize that these have been hidden from us to a great degree, and from our people and from our students, to realize that in our Supreme Court over the building is a picture of Moses. There are multiple places in which the Ten Commandments have been displayed. And to be ignorant of the Ten Commandments actually is to be uneducated, because they are a foundation of all law that we've seen throughout. What I would like to do in the essence of time, and I know we have a speaker, help me, Matt Krause is with First Liberty Institute, and I'd ask Matt if you will come on board with us. He is a constitutional lawyer, and I've asked him if he would come in. Matt, are you still with us? Or you may have, I don't know what the pink means. Does anybody know? He's not on. He may have had to leave us. Okay. Okay. Public comments. We have, hold on, I have Senator Moore. I'm gonna let you want a comment, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say at the appropriate time, you've got a motion to do pass for me. So,
Okay. Second. Okay. Any other discussion? No. Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? We'll hear when we're passed, we're done. We're dismissed. Is that fair? Thank you. One second, please. Take that. What's this? Committee, I need you for just 1 second before you leave on SB 379, which was we voted on. No, we've had 6 yeses and 5 noes, and that's what we had from that standpoint. I just need to clarify with y'all as far as that portion. Members are not in the room anymore, so we got to get them. Okay. Okay, we'll need to clarify that with Senator Cook. Huh? It was 5 to 6 on both. 5 to 6 on both. Okay, let us clarify that with Mr. Cook, and then may have to come back to you just to get that clarified, okay? Okay, thank you. We are dismissed. Thank you.